Right. Thank you for being here and
Okay.
put it over to you.
Okay. All right. I want to make sure that you can see like that chair. Okay. Because I'm going to be like doing some demos.
Yeah.
Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Maggie. I am the physical therapist at Vera Whole Health. I am also a yoga teacher. And yoga is not just about stretching, it's about like overall mobility. And we're going to learn the importance of flexibility and mobility. So, George wanted me to talk about stretching, why we stretch, what it's important for, and the different types of stretching, and when you introduce them into your wellness program. So, just a little background first on stretching. So, there was a time when medical providers, wellness providers were all about stretching. Everyone needs to stretch, you need to have adequate flexibility. That needs to be really emphasized. Then we had the complete reversal with the advent of like more technical investigative studies with functional MRI. We were able to like look at what happens when you stretch and then monitor performance after that. So they did a number of studies on athletes and they had them do static stretching and then do their running, their swimming, their track, like whatever performance measure they used. And they showed a decline in performance after the bout of stretching. So then there was kind of a flip where now people were saying, oh, no, 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 don't stretch. Stretching compromises performance. So don't do that. But what with those, number one, they did the studies on a very elite population doing very elite activities that were like competitive performance based. So it wasn't applicable to the general population. And then they didn't do dynamic stretching. They did static stretching where they had them hold the stretch for 30 seconds, then do it. And it showed a decline in performance because you actually lengthen the muscle just prior to putting a demand on the muscle to shorten and create power. And so then that was, you may have heard like, oh no, don't stretch, don't compromise your function with stretching. Well, now we understand, as with everything, we've gone to both extremes. So now we're in the middle where stretching is crucial. It's important for overall function and longevity, and it can enhance performance when done correctly. So today we're going to talk about the two types of stretching. One is static stretching, one is dynamic stretching, also known as mobility. So with static stretching, this is where you take a muscle to the end point where you feel that first tension and you hold it for 30 seconds. And you need to hold it statically for a prolonged period of time so the brain gets the input to go, oh, did you want this range? Because we didn't think you wanted this range because you don't do this, but you've held it for more than 15 seconds, so you must want it. So it's going to start the processes to send the building blocks down to make that muscle actually structurally longer. It's going to create muscle cells in length, like a paper chain, to give you length through that whole length of the muscle. So it's like with your, hopefully you can see me, with your hamstrings, the muscles in the back that attach from the butt to below the knee. Ideally, you want to be able to touch the floor without rounding your back. So it would be here, and I have heels on, so it's a little tight. So it's getting my hands to the floor without rounding my back. What happens if you have tight hamstrings? They attach from butt to the knee. As I come forward, if it's tight, it holds my butt back, but I still want to get to the floor. I got to tie my shoes, I got to pick stuff up. So I will over round through my low back. So having tight hamstrings makes my back vulnerable to injury. And you think of how many times you do that. If you can't, like I'm just going to stand here, if you can't get your leg up here, that 90-degree flex position at the hip, then anytime you bend over, you are over rounding the back and making the back vulnerable to injury. So that's why you want to have adequate length through static stretching so we can get here without doing that. Same thing with reaching overhead. if I don't visit my end range every day, if I don't touch my end range here, my brain goes, oh, she doesn't want that range of motion, so we're not going to waste energy on keeping that. So then slowly, I wouldn't even realize that I would lose that range because my body is like shrink wrapping. It's like you're not using it, we're going to take it away. So then if I have to reach up high, now if I can only get to here, and I think this is full range, to me, this full range, because I don't go here anymore. This is my full range. If I have to reach up for something high, I can't get it here. So what I have to do is I arch my back and that gets my arm relatively higher. But anytime I reach up now, again, I'm stressing my back, all because I don't have the flexibility in my shoulder or my hamstring to do the movement in the optimum way. So it's important to have that flexibility to maintain joint motion so that other parts of your body don't have to make up for the deficit in the shoulder or the spine or the hip. And the only way to get that change in structure, that lengthened muscle, is with static stretching. And the ideal is to do it twice a week. You want to hit the muscle groups twice a week and 30 seconds for each like muscle group. And we're going to go through some static and some mobility, but that's the recommended dosage. That will help gain and maintain your motion at all of your joints so that you don't end up shrink wrapping and then moving from stiff positions. And that is if you don't stretch and visit your end range, you won't know that you're losing it because your body is shrink wrapping and taking away the tissue that's not needed anymore. So you won't even perceive it until one day you just go, oh my God, I can't move my arm back anymore. Um, but as long as you're breathing, you can recapture that range. And it takes 6 weeks for the body to actually structurally make a change in the length of that tissue. So that static stretching gains mobility and keeps our optimized mobility at every joint by keeping the right length ratio between muscles that surround the joint. So that is static stretching. Static stretching is best done when you're warm. So either after an activity or after like a hot bath, because you want to get like circulation, warmth into the tissues because it's the less viscous. The heat makes the fluid in the muscles a little less viscous so that you can then get a better stretch without any like micro tears in there. So how we want our tissues to move is like cook spaghetti through water. So when I move my arm, I have fascia, skin, all the dermal layers, muscles, tendons, ligaments. All of those are in there and they all have to like slide and glide on each other. And they slide and glide in a fluid matrix that is like we want it to be water. But if you don't stretch, if you don't move, that the watery extracellular substance becomes like melted peanut butter, then cold peanut butter, then extra crunchy peanut butter. And so things kind of get stuck. This is where you wake up in the morning, you're like really stiff in the morning. But you have that throughout the whole day because your tissues aren't sliding and gliding. So you want, when you move, you want to visualize cooked spaghetti moving through water, where you just take the spoon and you move it and it just moves through the water. If you don't stretch consistently and participate in a movement program, your tissues, it's like you're trying to move cooked spaghetti through peanut butter, where it's like you can get little shearing tears in the tissue, which creates an inflammatory response. But all you have to do is just keep moving, and it keeps everything in that slidey, glidey, and optimized viscosity of the fluid in there. So static stretching, best done after a warm up, where fluid is kind of moving through and you feel a little heat generated in your body. And And the best time to do it is after a workout because then you're heated up internally from the workout. And from the workout where you did maybe weight training, maybe bar, but you did an activity that tended to shorten muscles because you're strengthening them. So the brain got the input, oh, you want to be strong in this range. Okay, well, strength comes from the muscles contracting and shortening. So you did an activity that put input into the brain that said, we want to be strong. And the brain goes, got it. Okay, you want to be strong, which means short, because like your bicep, you shorten it and it poofs up. All you have to do is after that workout, do static stretching, and the brain's like, oh, you want to be long too? Oh, you want to be strong and long. Then the brain builds the muscle where the fibers are parallel to each other for strength, which create the bulk, and it makes that paper chain to make it long as well. When you don't do stretching after a workout, you just put input into the body that we want to be short and strong. So a static stretching program after a workout just is, it feels good. It's a nice cool down and it tells the body, I want to be strong and long. I don't want to be short and tight, but bodybuilders, that kind of just, they just want power. They just want strength, but they can't tie their own shoes because they don't stretch. So we don't want to be that. We want to have tissue that allows us to be long and strong and maintain full joint mobility so we can touch our end ranges. The second kind of stretching is called dynamic. So this is where you don't hold a stretch for a while. You do a movement and you touch the end range of motion, but you don't stay there. So what you're telling the body is, I want to be able to move in and out of my end ranges with good control. I want my tissue to be able to slide more quickly in and out so that you have, this is what gives you the grace and the fluency of movement and not like the glitchy kind of movement, like, oh, give me a minute. And you just think like visualize like when you were young, you could get up off the floor with no problem. And that was fluency, that was mobility, that was you were constantly engaged when we were young, engaged in play. We were constantly moving. So we were touching end ranges, but we needed control through them. We don't lose that because we age. We lose that because we stop doing it. We don't have time for play. We don't get recess like we did. And that is what we need. We need to explore greater movement options throughout our day. And there are two compound movements. These are movements that involve multiple joints that they're looking at, including, you know, how you have wellness visits that test your biometrics. Well, physical functioning is really important. And so, with all of the studies in longevity, they're noticing that the ability to balance and get up and down from the floor, just move with fluidity is really important. And the people that maintain that mobility live longer and live better. Their wellness span equals their lifespan. So they don't spend the last few years sedentary, kind of stuck. And the two measures are, I'm going to show you, is you should be able to get up off the floor without using your hands from the lying down position. So you lay, can you see me? Okay, so we lay down without using my hands. I have the flexibility and the strength, the mobility through my core to come up, the flexibility, strength, mobility in my hips and my legs to cross, the balance and the mobility to be able to stand up. So that is how we test, like that's the compound movement. And we want everyone to be able to do that. Then for the upper body, what you want to do is have a dowel or a stick, measuring stick. You lay down on the floor. It stretches up above your head. You can lift it up, pull it back without touching your head or your back. Reach it forward, bring it back down. So those are the two movements, compound movement series that we are looking to introduce into the wellness visits as a measure. And if you can't do those, then getting some intervention to help you get better at the building blocks to put those movements together. So those include the dynamic mobility and the static stretching, maintaining joint mobility at the end ranges. So when you would do dynamic mobility, dynamic stretching is before you participate in an activity. So if you were like running a marathon, going mountain biking, playing tennis, this is where you want to prime the nervous system to say, and the brain to say, so we're going to be moving through ranges of motion. We're not going to hold them. We're going to be moving through ranges of motion. So just doing the dynamic mobility warm up is alerting the brain that we're going to be moving up, down, side to side, twisting and with quickly. Like we're not going to hold it. We're going to move quickly, move in and out of those positions. So you would do the dynamic stretching, those mobility exercises before you do an activity, before you start your work day. Um, and just like in the mobility ones, you want to touch those 3 times a week because that's active movement control and introducing them, like interspersing them throughout the day, like throughout your work day, throughout, your life day. So every hour, pick a different one and do it. So the brain always goes, oh, you want to move with fluidity through a full range with good control and optimized mechanics. Got it. We got you. We're going to keep that potential in you always. Because if you don't, the brain, the body will kind of shrink wrap and take that movement potential away. So static stretching you do when you're warm, best done after a workout so that you tell the brain you want to be long and strong. Dynamic mobility, best done before performance or interspersing it throughout the day when you just are kind of feeling stiff. Okay. And so I gave you the handouts. And so the first one is we're going to go over it's like a pre-work stretch program. So it really could be like pre-work, pre-activity. And these are a combination of static stretches and some mobility. And what we have found that because I also do occupational wellness and there's lots of ergonomic studies, and people that engage in a pre-work stretch program are like 60% less likely to have a repetitive stress injury or a traumatic injury in their workday. And what it is mainly about is telling the brain that you're going to be using this body part so that that part of the brain becomes sensitized to that part of the body. And it's going to give you an early warning like, hey, we're feeling stiff or we're feeling tight or there's a muscle spasm coming. So it is sensitized to give you messages because you said by doing a stretching, touching that range, touching that muscle, that joint, you told the brain, hey, could you please pay attention to this today? And so you will have a greater awareness to feel earlier on before a muscle spasm happens. And by just doing that, the brain goes, hey, I think they're going to be using that today. So let's send down some extra blood supply and healing tissues and some nutrients just so they're ready when she needs them. And so this pre-work stretching program, once you get it down is like maybe 10 minutes and you just do it before you start your workday. And then as you feel tension, if you feel like stiffness, tension coming on, you pick one of the exercises and you can do it because you should be taking a break like every hour for at least a minute to get up, walk around and move so that you reset your body's capacity to withstand the stresses that you're imposing the previous hour. So ideally, we would like you to move like every 30 minutes. That's hard to do sometimes. So it's at least every hour walking around, picking one of these stretches to do, and that'll get you through an 8-hour day. So We're just going to go through. So I'm going to demo. You can do them along if you want, but I'm just going to show you just to make sure that you understand what they are. So the pre-work is combination of static stretches. So the first one is more of a mobility where we're going to like establish good postural position for the rest of them. So it's where you just bring your arms down out in front, you turn the palms up, you squeeze the shoulder blades together. So you bring them down out in front, just a little below shoulder level, palms down, squeeze them back, squeeze the shoulder blades, stretch the front of the pecs. Bring them forward and then bring them back. Now we're just going to hold them back here. Just release the arms down and then the thumbs just point forward. So when you are standing, if you see people standing and you can see the backs of their arms, they're in a position where they're pinching their rotator cuff here. Thumb should be pointed forward. The shoulder blade should be gently aiming. The lower shoulder blade in the back should be aiming for the opposite back pocket. So that sets the shoulders, the shoulder blades in nice alignment, and then the chin is tucked. And now from this nice postural position, we warm up the neck. So you bring right ear to right shoulder. You roll the chin down towards the center of the chest, over to that left side. And then again, you roll down towards the center of the chest, back to that right side. We'll do this one more time. Roll chin to chest, releasing tension through the neck, over to the left. And then chin to chest, and back over to the right. And then just go ahead and bring the head back up to the center. So then we set the body in nice posture, relax the neck in its neutral position. Now we work on the arms, shoulders, and wrists. So you're going to interlace the hands in front, palms in. Now you pull the palms in underneath the chin, the elbows are wide. Then you turn and press the palms out and away, stretching through that carpal tunnel. Then you bring the arms up overhead. Touch your end range. Notice if you're popping the rib cage up, that means your shoulders are tight. Keep the rib cage down. Just feel that end range. And then bring them back down out in front. And then turn the palms in, bring them back in underneath the chin. So this is sliding and gliding the nerves, sliding and gliding the tissues. One more time. Press it out. Bring them up. Touch your end range without lifting that rib cage. And then bring it back down and pull your palms in. Now we're going to go into the third one. So we press the palms out, bring them back up, keep the rib cage down. Now we're going to open the side body. You're going to side bend to the right. So you feel a stretch in that left rib cage. Then you take a deep inhale. That stretches the intercostals. Exhale, see if you can go a little deeper. Inhale. And exhale, a little deeper. Then we come back up through the center with control and we go over to the left. Feel your end range, then inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And then inhale, coming back up, and then just release the arms out. So now we touched the neck, the shoulders, all of the arms, and the torso. Now we're going to work into the lower body. So we're going to start with stretching the quads first. You can use a chair to hold on to if you need, but use your right hand to grab. If your quad is tight, grab your pants leg or front of the ankle. You want to make sure that the knee is not coming out like this. The knee is directly underneath the hip and you're pulling your heel towards the buttock. You suck belly button to backbone because we don't want to arch the back. Suck belly button to backbone. And then this is a static stretch. So this you hold for 30 seconds, which you could do like just look at a clock, 30 seconds, or you could like take 5 deep breaths. You're gonna work on breathing. And also it's a good time to work on balance. So use support if you need to, but work up to not needing support. Because again, what we know from research is if you can balance for 30 seconds on each leg, you are 88% less likely to ever need total hip or total knee surgery. Okay, and then we're just going to switch sides. So left hand grabs the front of that left ankle or the pants leg, knee points down, use support. And then eventually, as you do this more and more, the body will give you that capacity to build balance. So again, static stretching, you hold for 30 seconds to tell the brain we want our quad and hip flexor to be long and strong. Okay, and relax that down. Now we go into the hamstrings. So hands on hips to keep your spine in neutral, suck belly button to backbone. Bring that right foot out in front and really pull the toes up towards your legs so you feel a stretch in the calf as well. Keeping that back flat. We're not going to round like this. Keep the back flat. Only go as far as you can without rounding the back. We don't want this. That overstretches the low back. You want to direct the opening to the hamstring, the whole back of that leg. And then again, static stretch. So this is one that you hold for 30 seconds. Or again, you can take 5 deep breaths. And when you use the breath to count, when you inhale, you access the part of the nervous system that is fight or flight, stress, like you inhale, it's like, oh, what's going on? But when you exhale, you activate the part of the nervous system that says everything is fine, muscles relax, and you'll notice you can go a little deeper with each exhale. Okay, now come back up. Let's do the other side. So left foot out in front, belly button to backbone, tall spine, pull the toes up, hinge only as far as you can, keeping that back flat. Then just play with the breath here. So inhale. And then exhale, and notice on the exhale, you can soften and go a little deeper. That's how you use breath to help. And then just with each exhale, see if you can go a little deeper. Inhale, exhale, and then come on up. So we got quads, hamstrings. Now we just need to do that piriformis and hip rotators. So you can sit in a chair where you sit in a chair, and we'll put the right ankle above the left knee. You flex that right foot, and then you just hinge forward again with the flat back, no rounding of the back. So you just hinge till you feel a stretch in that right hip. And then the same thing, static stretch, you hold it for 30 seconds, or you use your breath. Usually it's about 5 deep breaths where you inhale and then exhale. See if you can hinge a little deeper. So this is just working on that piriformis, the hip rotators, and that big glute muscle in the back. And then let's just go ahead and switch legs. So left foot above that right knee, flex that foot so you don't torque or twist that left knee, tall spine, hinge to feel that resistance. And then just so we never push, we never bounce in a stretch. The safest way to stretch is to go to that first resistance, then invite your breath. So you inhale, and then with the exhale, you just see if you can play with that end range a little bit, but never going to the point of pain. Resistance is okay, but not pain. And then again, you do that for your 5 deep breaths or 30 seconds, and then release. Okay, so that is your pre-work stretching program. So you would do it all at once before you start your work or your exercise routine, and then just interspersing different one of those. There's 8 of them, so 8-hour day. You can pick one and then do that as a micro break for your workstation. So that's static stretching. The second handout is the mobility. So this is where now we touch the ends of ranges. We make the muscles lengthen, but we make them lengthen with control. So we're going to go through those now. So the first one is called a walking windmill. So it's for the hamstrings. So what you would do is bring your foot out, so right foot out in front, tall spine, belly button to backbone. So it's walking, this is waterfall, walking waterfall. So then we just hinge to the point of resistance and then whoosh the arms down. We come up and then walk, put the left foot in front, whoosh it down. So with each step, as you whoosh, you're lengthening that hamstring, but you're not holding it. It's just dynamic. So we're priming the nervous system to say we're going to move, and we want to have that full ability of control of the torso over that leg with the hamstring being stretched. And you would do that for like a minute, which would be like maybe 10 steps one way, then you can turn around 10 steps the other way. So that's for the posterior chain, primarily the hamstring. Then we want to get the hip flexors and the quads in the front chain. So we do a little hip hinge walking. So this one, same thing, how we stretch the quad, you grab the pants leg or the ankle and you just hinge. You bring that left hand down, you come up, right foot out in front, grab the left, hinge like you're trying to touch the floor, come up. So you're walking, doing that quad stretch. And again, you're actually building strength and balance with this. Grabbing. And again, you would do this, like walking 10 steps one way, turn around, walk 10 steps the other way. Okay. So that gets anterior chain, posterior chain, quads, hip flexors, hamstrings. So now we want to address the upper body. So what you do is you would stand like against a wall, pretend I'm standing against a wall. So you stand with your heels about an inch away from the wall. Back of your head is on the wall. So this would be like I am standing against a wall. Like that. And then you should be able to, ideally with optimized mechanics, bring your arms up to that goalpost position without popping the rib cage up, belly button to backbone. Rib cage stays down. So the backs of your forearms, backs of the hands are all against the wall, chin is tucked. You should be able to keep your arms on the wall and slide them all the way up above the head without coming off the wall and slide them back down. So these are wall angels where you would just slide up and down. And if you're really tight through the pecs, you may have to bend the knees, come into a squat like a wall sit. So then you take
20-minute
the lats out
interview.
of the equation at first, and then you slide up and down. But you want to work towards where you can get everything there and slide it up and down. So those are wall angels. So that gets whole upper quarter, front body. Then we want to get the spine. Want to start warming up the spine. So we want to do it in rotation. So with this one, you interlace the hands behind your head. Your feet are hip distance apart. Again, mobility, just telling the brain we're going to move through a range. We want control and movement. So it's just you're going to twist to the right as you bring the right knee up, bring it down, and then lift the left leg up and twist to the left. So it's just twist and twist. So you're working the spine, you're working the hips, you're working the shoulders. So that starts to work into the spine. Then we're going to take it to the floor and we're going to do cat-cow to get the spine in flexion and extension. So this is a yoga move where you just drop the belly down, shoulder blades squeeze together, gaze is up. And then the tailbone tucks under, belly button scoops in and up, neck is soft, head hangs. So you're just moving the spine through its full range of motion in this plane of flexion and extension. And you'll do that like 5 to 10 times. Then we want to build a little strength in the spine. So we do the sunbird. So we're here, you suck belly button to backbone, and you lift opposite arm and leg up, bring it down. So we're not going to hold it. We're just going to tell the body we're going to be moving side to side in rotation, arm and leg. You're going to be doing different things. So you just do like 5 sets of just moving through your range. Shoulder, hip, keeping the spine nice and stable. Now we want to integrate spine and lower body together. So what we're going to do, we pop up off the floor. We're going to do a combined lunge. This is called the world's greatest stretch series. So what you do is you start in standing, and then we're going to come down into a lunge. So I'm going to send my left leg back, and my left hand is going to come down to the floor, and my right arm is going to go up. So I'm rotating, I'm letting my pelvis release to the earth to stretch the front of that left hip. I bring my right arm up, then I send it underneath my left arm, so I twist. I bring my right arm up again, and then I come all the way back up to standing. And then I do it to the other side. My right leg is going to step back, right hand down, left arm reaches up, stretch into the front of the hips, let the pelvis release to the ground a little bit. Then left hand goes underneath the right. We bring the left hand back up again, and then we circle it around and we come back up. And you do that, and that kind of gets your heart rate going. And you do that like 3 to 5 times. You build up to whatever you can tolerate. Again, never touching pain with any of these things. And then the last mobility is to get the hips like opening wide. So it's a little squat. So you have your feet hip distance apart, the toes point out, and we just come down into a squat. And in the picture, it has just the squat, but you could add a twist here also, where you twist, left hand comes in front of the left shin, right arm reaches up, come down, and then go the opposite direction. So in this position, you're stretching your calves, your knees, your hips, your adductors, your groin, and strengthening at the same time coming up. So you would just repeat that. So we're not holding it. We're just doing, it's called dynamic mobility, dynamic stretching. Coming up, let's do one more time. So down, twist, and then twist, and come up. So just that routine gets dynamic mobility for shoulders, hips, spine, quads, hamstrings, just a comprehensive. So again, that one would be done because when you do the mobility one, you'll notice, get a little breathless because it's movement, and that just gets your heart pumping. So you are priming your cardiovascular system, your musculoskeletal system, and your nervous system to prepare for the activity that you're going to be doing. So dynamic mobility before an activity, intersperse it throughout the day when you're feeling stiff or tired, because it does get the heart pumping. Static stretching after you work out, and then combining bits of those before you start your work day or your life day, just to get the brain ready to receive the movement inputs. So that, any questions at all?
Maggie, I noticed that my microphone down here. I noticed that you didn't do a back bend with the head. Is there an exercise where you can bend the head back, or is it actually recommended that you don't flex the head, up
Back.
and back?
No, you can do that. So that's with the cat and the cow. When you
Ah,
do the cow stretch, you look up, squeeze the shoulder blades. So you want to do combine with the spine, you want to do combined movements. You don't want to
hmm,
like just stand here and just look up because the
yeah,
spine moves, it articulates like cumulatively. We don't want to like get full motion just from one. And so that's why the cat and the cow are really nice because you articulate the entire spine.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, Margaret was here. Hi, Margaret. She's gone now, though. Right. Here she is. Ah. Hi, Margaret.
Hi. Um, from completely on the ground, I was trying to imitate what you did, but I find that I have to fold my legs underneath me to my knees and then get up. Is there
That is
describe?
that, of course, Margaret, that's the advanced version. That's called the Asian squat series. Um, and that is like that's you have to have like really good strength and flexibility through the quads and the hip flexors. So, I mean, that's like a step up from the cross-legged seat position. And for like the biometrics, like a physical biometrics, we want the one that is accessible to like the greatest number of people. And so that's why it's like what's being considered is a cross-legged version. But when you have your feet tucked underneath you, that's called the Asian squat series. And
I
that's
would,
like a level up.
well, thank you for saying that, but because I couldn't do the one with the cross leg and then pushing up, I couldn't get out of that position.
Huh.
So I'm just wondering what I'm doing wrong mechanically because I have to literally, tuck
Tuck
my
your
legs
feet
underneath
underneath
me and
you.
then go the other way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And that might be that is your hip rotators have to have strength and flexibility in that position. And I wonder like with your ballet if like you have turned out so much that there might be a little insufficiency at that end range to get you
Oh,
back
okay.
into internal because you have to go from external rotation
Okay.
to internal rotation pretty quickly with that.
That makes total sense. Yep.
Yeah, that might be it.
Right. So that's the more advanced position for me that I need to work on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you should see
Right.
my face while I was trying to do it. Wait a minute. This doesn't compute. I can't do
Right. Why can't I do this? Right.
it.
Okay. Oh,
Hello.
hi.
I know you just summarized, and by the way, this was excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all your
Oh, thank
information.
you.
But I was although slow in taking notes. Do you mind repeating that summary you gave at the end with the pre-workout, post-workout, and pre-work?
Right. So the times to, I just kind of said when what was the appropriate time to do each of the type of stretching. So for static, like the pre-work static stretch that involve more static stretch, the static stretching you want to do, well, first let's just talk static stretching. Static stretching to actually lengthen and create change in the length of the muscle, you want to do at the end of a workout when the body is warm. So when you work out, you're usually resisting, like creating power and strength, and that shortens tissue. So the brain goes, oh, got it. You want to be strong and short. You want your fibers to be strong and short. So if you don't stretch right after that, that's the message the brain gets. You want to be strong and have powerful tissue, so you need it to be short so it can get together and contract quickly. But all you have to do after you do exercise is do the static stretching afterwards. And then the brain goes, oh, you want to be long too. So you want strength through the full range of motion, not just that specific range you were exercising in. So you want to do static stretching after a workout. And then there's also some static stretches involved in the pre-work routine that we went through. And that is there just to tell the brain that, hey, I'm going to be using this muscle group today. So could you pay attention to it? Like, give me information early on if it's shortening or getting stressed, um, and like help prevent me from injuring it, from getting like a repetitive stress injury. Or if I move it in a funny position, it's sensitized because you stretched it in the beginning to go, oh, we don't like that, and you can react more quickly to that. So that's like static stretching. Dynamic stretching is also known as mobility. That you do before an activity because it serves as a warm up because you can see because you're not holding it, you're moving, like you're moving in and out of postures. And with that movement, you're controlling your joint mobility using the muscle through the full range of its mobility. And just the act of just moving side to side with all of those gets the heart pumping, which gets the body warm so that you're priming your cardiovascular system. You're saying, hey, we're going to be doing something where we're going to need you to give us output. And then you're also telling the brain, like, oh, I'm going to be moving up and down, side to side from the floor standing. So the brain is primed for the activity that you're going to do. So dynamic, you want to do before you do like heavy work or your physical workout activity. And then dynamic mobility, you can also intersperse through the day. Like if you're just feeling kind of stiff and tight, you haven't moved in a while, pick one of the dynamic mobility and just do it as your break for that hour. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
And kind of a follow-up question to that, for the workouts, does it matter how long we work out for the amount of time we're stretching?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay,
Nope.
awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay, we good?
Okay, thank you very much, Maggie. I think
Okay.
that was excellent. And y'all, we are going to try and have Maggie back later in the year, so keep an eye open for that. Thank you so much for being part of the Aerobic Winter Challenge program, taking part in this Lunch and Learn, and I wish you all a very Merry holidays.
Okay,
Thank you all, and thank you,
Thank you,
Maggie.
guys. Thanks, George. You bet. Take care,
Thank you.
guys.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.